Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome to the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sports book born in Vegas. We've got a loaded show for you today. We got a SportsLine NBA pick from Prop Stars. We've got college football, which starts in, a couple of hours. We've got an NFL pick and soccer, of course. A lot coming your way. Let's see how we did on the recap screen yesterday. I think it's our first losing day this week. I'll have to go back and check. I know we've had a winning week overall, but we're 3-4 here. Now, granted, this is kind of 2-4, right? Because both JLC and myself were on the Seahawks first half, -2.5. Of course, if those ended up being losses, you'd see 2 losses, just like you see 2 wins here. Not the best night. Larry comes close to that over in tackles and assists, but it doesn't get there. And the Bulls allow 50 points in the fourth quarter to lose the +6.5 cover. Pretty unbelievable stuff there. All right, well, we got to bounce back. We got to bounce back with a winning Friday. And y'all know how we do it. This is an exciting day every single Friday because it's BPE Friday. Woo! What is happening here?
Let's go!
Oh my gosh, 2 bookworms. This is crazy. I've never seen buckets with a book. Mike, I'm used
buckets
to that.
Can read?
This is news to me. News to me. Reading for, I'm not going to finish that sentence. Well, listen, I had my double espresso, but I can't guarantee, Chip Patterson, that everybody in the chat, Jeff Stenberg, Mr. Big, Joe Neuenfeld, Brad Morris, Brad Betts, Footy, Tyler, Mark, I don't know that they had their double espresso, so please do the honors with the chip me up.
Good morning, Sia. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Buckets. Good morning, Tebow. Good morning, Early Edge fam. I hope that old Mr. Chris Kringle came sliding on through your house like he did ours, and he brought a lot of joy, and he brought a lot of vision. The vision that will bring us clarity, which will produce the winners over the next several days. We're going to be all over the board from noon to midnight, and we are going to be locked and loaded starting with a kickoff in just a couple hours.
That's fantastic. I love that we have a kickoff in a couple hours. It truly is bowl season. Buckets, what's on everybody's mind is, what were you actually reading during BPE Friday intro?
Well, this is embarrassing because Chip kind of called me out because that entire book that I was pretending to read is in German. So I wasn't actually reading it. I just wanted to do my best M² impression. I can't read German, so I wasn't reading anything.
I think it was upside down as well.
I thought McClure, it was Cat in the Hat.
Where's Waldo? Mike, what were you reading?
The Atomic Habits. I would call it a modern classic. It's a great book. I think anyone could benefit from reading it for sure.
That's actually a really good call. I think that's our first great pick of the day. Go ahead and go out there and read Atomic Habits, because I know that is a very good book. All right, let's get to some picks, folks. Let's get to Chip. You called it out. This is how we do it. If you're new to the show, Chip usually gives out a pick early, and then he gives out a couple picks late in the show. The early pick is always a Friday pick. Chip Patterson, you mentioned it. Navy, Oklahoma. It starts at noon. What's the play?
Oh, all right. So we are going to be tackling the first half under key number of 21.5 here between Oklahoma and Navy. So Armed Forces Bowl has produced some interesting results. Most notably, these service academies have kind of been taking it to their power conference opponents. Now think about it. If you are a team, and this is a Big 12 tied matchup, Oklahoma just carrying it over, you are probably, this is not the bowl game you wanted, right? You know, you wanted to be up there playing on December 31st. You wanted to be playing on January 1st. But you know where motivation is never lacking? With a program like Navy, especially coming off the Commander-in-Chief's trophy win, especially with the way that they brought the fight to Army in America's game. And so I'm looking at this one and I'm saying, okay, Oklahoma all year long, defensively really strong. It's just offensively, that was where the problems were. So if Oklahoma shows up prepped, if they showed up teed up, which I think they will be, follow me here, Brent Venables was at Clemson. Clemson played Georgia Tech every single season when Paul Johnson was running the triple option. So they're going to have the coaching tips down. I think Oklahoma does a good job defensively, but I think Navy does as well. So I like the first half under 21.5.
I want to ask you, Chip, because there's some people, I noticed it before we got into the show. There were some people already in the chat pre-10 o'clock. And Mike, I'm going to kick this off of you. I'm not asking for an official play. It just seems like some of the sentiment maybe in the SportsLine Discord and in this chat is Navy to win this one. Is that something you're just staying far away from in terms of a side?
I lean Navy side. I'm not going to play it, but if I had to play something, it would certainly be the Navy side. I think this game still means a lot to them, and they've got most of the unit intact. Obviously, Oklahoma does not, and I think that this is just a spot that sets up well for them. Like if this were a regular season matchup or start of the season, like it's not close particularly, and generally the quality of the athlete at the school not particularly close. But in this one, I do lean the Navy side on the motivational angle. So it would be, if I had to play it, it would be Navy or nothing.
Chip.
Yeah, 100%. And this is where, I mean, just to dip back into our bag, maybe you want to sit back and wait for a better live number. You know, like if you've got the opportunity, Oklahoma, they've kind of got that skeleton offensive staff as Arbuckle gets in there and tries to instill what they're going to have for what's going to end up being probably a different quarterback with John Mateer. But maybe they do have a good, sharp first 10 to 15 because athletically, Oklahoma does have an advantage here where if they scheme something up, then like that 6-yard touchdown could be a 60-yard touchdown. But then you might have the opportunity to get Navy at an even better number. So my pick, like on CBSSports.com, you know, every single time I've had to fill out an against the spread pick, I was like, yeah, Navy's going to go do it because I really like the motivational edge. And in this game, I think about 2 years ago, Baylor showed up in this game after somewhat of a disappointing season. And it was just so clear that Air Force wanted to be there. And the final margin was only maybe 2 touchdowns, but it just looked like a tail whooping. You know, I was just like, oh, golly. And I think that Navy, especially the way that they wanted to, I mean, think about Navy. They were so disappointed after that Notre Dame loss, and then they lose to Rice. I mean, it was just like you were so high, and then it felt like you'd crash landed. The way that they responded with the win against Army, I've got to think they're going to have a big time motivational edge.
I just love that I heard tail whooping. And I know Buckets like cracked a smile when you said that too. You don't have a BPE Friday show until you got tail whooping or until you get a comment from Paul L, who says, hey, see, it's EK here. Eric Casilius, of course. Hope everyone had a great President's Day. The inside joke of inside jokes. Mike B19 says, got to give a huge shout out to Proppy in the Discord yesterday. Help me cook up a nice plus 1,000 or a 1,000 plus NBA prop parlay that hit. Absolutely love to see that. We're going to have a pick from Proppy later on the show, but Buckets, first we got to get to you. We've got a couple of soccer plays that you like.
Sia, there's a lot of comments in the chat saying, I don't know how to read, and also comments about Dr. Seuss. So while Chip was giving his take, I wrote my own Dr. Seuss-esque story to give out both of my plays today. So bear with me while I try to get through this. We all ready?
Yes. I hope so.
Everyone have a seat because Aruca is taking on Gil Vicente. 2 bad teams, but will have a good day. Aruca found dead last on the table. Gil should get a few goals. They're able. Take Gil first half goal plus 150. Boy, oh boy, that number's just nifty. Second bet, close to the first. Aruca, gosh, they're just the worst. Gil Vicente second half goal 2 plus 120, too good to be true. We'll cash both tickets. It'll be a blast. I told y'all I could read, so kiss my... Never mind. Let's cash.
Yeah!
That was unbelievable.
No, not ChatGPT.
That was so unbelievable.
And if you didn't actually get what the bets were, it's Aruca versus Gil Vicente in Portugal. Gil Vicente to score in the first half plus 150 and to score in the second half plus 120. Sia, plus odds on both plays.
Wait, I have to know now. Did you just cook that up in the last like 3 minutes?
Yeah.
All right, that was actually really, really impressive. I'm
you don't have to believe me, Chip, but I did.
I love these plays because it follows something that I end up falling into, which can be a joy. You know, sometimes you fall into something great. Sometimes you fall into a ditch. But this is a real treasure map potential because he has essentially identified one game and found so many different ways to win within that one game. We've got Gil Vicente to score in the first half. We've got Gil Vicente to score in the second half. Maybe someone's going to get reckless and bundle it up and then put a little bow on it. I mean, that's a real treasure right there. He's just giving you all the options. So many ways to win just one game. I love it.
Yeah, that was quite the mic drop moment. I hope these picks, or at least one of them, because they're both plus money, come through because pair wins with what you just did, Buckets. That's really impressive. All right, we mentioned prop stars. Alex Selesnick. He's got a pick on SportsLine. If you're a SportsLine member, you already have this. You already had it a long time ago. Jarrett Allen over 20.5 points and rebounds at -125. Again, Jarrett Allen over 20.5 points and rebounds at -125. If you want to make that pick, or if you want to make the soccer picks, or the bet you heard from Chip Patterson, or the bets you're about to hear, go to BetMGM. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you will receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. Now people are asking for interception props for Saturday buckets. I mean, people are so impressed. They're remembering all of the things that you can do. Before we get to any of that, because we do have a lot of football to talk about, including some more college football from Mike McClure, we're going to handle all of that right after this message from our partners. All right, we're back on the Early Edge, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Joe Neuenfeld says, how many of you knew that Prop Star's name is Alex Selesnick? Joe, the real question is, if you're, I know you've been with us for so long.
Subscribers should probably know that information.
Well, yeah, well, that's true. But what's his other name, Joe? That's what the chat needs to type in. What's the other name we know Prop Stars to be, a former career of his, or an aspiring career that Prop Stars had? All right, Mike, we got to get to your pick. It's the Miami Hurricanes. It's the Iowa State Cyclones. You're targeting a team total.
Yeah, I want to look at Miami's side here. Look, I liked him a little in the game when they were catching 1.5 early. It's now ballooned to 3.5 through a key number. I think Iowa State puts up a fight, and it's because Miami still has no defense. I'm not going to assume that Miami has fixed their issues defensively over the last month that we haven't seen them, essentially, right? So that plays into this, where I think the passing game for Iowa State has success, and we just get ourselves into a classic track meet that we've seen from Miami essentially every game this year. In fact, they've gone over 29.5 as a team total in every single game except for one. And that was a game against Georgia Tech, a sloppy game. This is a spot where I think they continue to put up points. You look at Cam Ward playing, the running backs are playing. I think they want to set the tone and end the season with a win. I know that it's a frustrating spot for them to be in. I like that they stay in the state of Florida. They're in Orlando for this game. It's really just the number. You kind of pay to find out situation here, because again, this team has scored over this number in essentially every game this season. And when you look at Iowa State, I know that you think of this team being somewhat gritty and somewhat good defense at times, but you look at some of the games that they played in the Big 12, this is probably going to play a lot like a Big 12 game. Where they just surrendered 45 to Arizona State. They gave up 45 to Kansas. They gave up 28 to Utah, a Utah team that just is nowhere near this Miami team in terms of offensive output. So for me, I liked it a lot at 29.5. I would still play it at 30.5. I would not go above that. I doubt we see the market move to 31 to where you'd have to score 32. But at 29.5, 30 becomes an extremely key number in a team total like this. Give me Miami here, team total over 29.5.
Yeah, Utah 28. Yeah, Utah 28 points needs a currency calculator, because a Utah 28 is like a Miami 45. Like that. I mean, that's come on now. That Utah team. Yeah, no, thank you.
Gipper's Pick says there are still some 29.5s out there. So thank you for that, Gipper's Picks. Chip, I know you have 2 picks that are pending, and I have a pick to give out too, but let's cover the Miami team total, because this doesn't often happen where, we come to the show, we don't know what each other's picks are. Obviously, we see that we've got a team total from Mike McClure over 29.5 for Miami. This is also a play of yours. And again, you have 2 picks to give out, but this is one of them. So you may as well talk about it now.
Yeah, I mean, I got a whole treasure map for this one. I would take Miami on the spread. I would take over on the total, because I do think Miami's defense is going to give it up. But my very best bet, the absolute top play for me in this game, is going to be on the Miami team total. And just to build on what Mike said right there were moments when Iowa State was at an athleticism disadvantage. Now, you go back to like the UCF game. You see how it looked when Arizona State got out in the open field. Iowa State's defense is well coached, but they, especially when you get into the linebackers and the defensive backs, just don't have the Jimmies and the Joes that they're going to be required to have to be able to stay in front of Miami skill position players. So yeah, I am locked in right there with Mike as well, with Miami team total over as one of my best bets.
Okay, we love that. And hopefully you guys ladies and gentlemen, love my pick. I'm going to NFL Saturday. There's a lot of really great games on Saturday. I mean, obviously there's the three. Two of them have plenty of implications, if not all three. I'm going with Bo Nix over 21.5 completions. Mike, on Fantasy Football Today, DFS, this is a game we talked about a lot at the end of the show. We talked about the main slate on Sunday, but we left the end of the show to talk about the Saturday slate. Mike, you think there's going to be a negative game script here, most likely for Denver. I agree, but I think even in a neutral game script, what we're seeing from Bo Nix, he's throwing it really close to the line of scrimmage. We're not seeing a lot of air yards. Yeah, it's happened here and there this season. He's got a couple long passes here and there, but overall, he's spreading it thin across all of his receivers and tight ends, and it's all near the line of scrimmage. So in a neutral or negative game script with a team that can't rush the ball very well. Now, you can run on Cincinnati, but I don't expect Denver to be able to run on Cincinnati. I expect a negative or neutral game script. I expect way over 21.5 completions. This is minus 125. I don't think it'll tick up to 22.5, but you're probably having to lay some juice here. I would lay as much as minus 130 on this. Maybe even minus 135, because I do expect Bo Nix to get 22 completions or more in what should be a high-scoring game. Rain anticipated potentially, but the total is holding at 49.5. That says everything I need to know about the ability of both teams to move the ball down the field. All right, well, that's my go ahead, Chip Patterson.
Oh, no, I was just gonna. I didn't know if you wanted me to do my other play earlier. Then we were dropping it. We're still coming back, right?
Oh yeah, we're still
okay.
Oh, 100%. If you have any Saturday questions for the NFL slate, let us know. Again, check out FFT DFS because we cover some prop angles on that show as well for the Sunday and Saturday slate. But Chip, yeah, I kind of let you give the Miami play out early just because it was in sync with Mike McClure's pick. But you have one pick left, and I love this one because what I think is so interesting about bowl season is transfer portal, opt-outs, who's playing, who's worried about their NFL career. And you can't just worry about who's playing, right? You have to worry about who's playing and for how long. And I'm guessing that's what leads to your pick on the Buffaloes.
Yeah, two things. First of all, right on spot. So we know Shedeur Sanders is going to play. We know that Travis Hunter is going to go out there and play. And they've got a lot of other seniors, LaJohntay Webster, Will Shepard. A lot of key players for this Colorado team are going to be playing in their last game for the Buffs right here. And that is, I think, a very cool pendulum swinging the other way that players like Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are motivating each other to go out there and make sure you go and play in that bowl game. However, one little twist of the old Yankee, like one little thing that doesn't quite feel right. We've got a first-round NFL future to worry about. We're going to try to shut this down. So let's just isolate Colorado in the first half minus 2.5. But I'd like to build on that with some actual football analysis because this is a BYU team that sometimes digs itself in a hole early. Look no further than the way that BYU played against Arizona State. They were down 21-0 early, came roaring back, outscored Arizona State 23-7 in the latter half of that game. Colorado has gotten off to some fast starts and then maybe let opponents climb back into the game. I 100% could see a situation where Colorado comes out razor focused, scores a couple touchdowns early, and then maybe leaves that back door open. Maybe even they end up losing the game. But I think that Colorado is going to be very sharp early. I think that BYU could absolutely get off to a slow start early. And so even if you ignore the NFL draft related implications of what it would require to get 60 minutes out of both Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, I think there are just football only reasons to like Colorado to get off to a hot start in the Alamo Bowl and to be able to be leading this by 3 or more going into the locker room. So Colorado first half minus 2.5.
Love the play. Love the analysis. Buckets, there are questions in the chat. I don't know if you've seen any of these, but Reed Phillips, for example, says, what do you think about Gil Vicente first half draw no bet at plus 115?
Oh, I love that.
Okay.
I'm not going to say that Reed's done a better job at finding a good angle than I have per se, but I will say that is a very unique way to tackle that. And I do not see Gil Vicente going down at any point in this fixture. So I think that's a great look, Sia.
All right. Any other soccer picks you saw in the chat worthy of addressing?
We had a couple questions about Brighton versus Brentford today, which is kind of one of the bigger EPL clashes going on. And I stayed off of that for a reason. Brentford is atrocious on the road, and Brighton is one of the least consistent teams right now in the Prem. That's a game where if you told me that ended 0-0, or if you told me it ended 5-7, I would believe each of those score lines equally. So just be careful touching that one, especially pre-lineups with so many injuries on that side.
Man, you know what? Speaking of the Premier League, I guess this is a good place to air this out. But what happened to the country that I loved? Okay, because it used to be that on Boxing Day, when the Premier League fills up the schedule, you could count on Boxing Day overs. And that's because everybody enjoyed themselves over Christmas, and then they'd show up, and guess what? Doesn't happen as much. Defense. Everybody was a little bit slow. Everybody was a little bit sluggish. And yet, I think Boxing Day overs went like 2-6 or 2-5. I mean, just what happened to the country that I love? They need to celebrate Christmas more. I don't know. I don't know exactly what the full statistical makeup is of the Premier League right now, but I need like good old fashioned boys from Suffolk that are going to be up way too late on the 25th and then just kind of like limber in a little bit hungover into the changing room on the 26th.
I will say, Chip, that in this Boxing Day, it was the most red cards we'd seen in the past decade on Boxing Day. So maybe they were a bit too sluggish. We saw 3 red cards happen to 3 teams that did not score. So maybe that kind of affected the unders a little bit. But regardless, I'm with you. I bet the over on every single game and was thoroughly disappointed when I went 2-6 yesterday.
Yeah. I'm glad somebody was with me. It looks like it looks like the chat is obviously with us as well. Very, very disappointing.
How dare they hit so many unders on Boxing Day?
How dare they be so prepared?
Speaking of the chat, everyone take a drink, says Joseph Akers. Sia just dropped a boy band reference when I said In Sync to you, Chip Patterson, earlier. And Joe Neuenfeld says, Sia saying In Sync was not a mistake. In Sync. My favorite boy band by far. Chip, do you have a favorite boy band?
I mean, I'm very much in the era, right? You know, so I kind of remember them both running along simultaneous tracks. I leaned more In Sync just because I thought the star power at the top with JT and JC was better than what you were getting from Brian and which Carter is it? Nick or Aaron?
Nick.
Aaron's one.
Nick,
yeah. So I felt like you had more star power at the top, but don't sleep on what you got on the back end of that roster over there from the Backstreet Boys. You know, a little bit slept on, but they brought the alternative vibes that I think the group needed.
I did not expect that breakdown. Mike, do you have a favorite boy band?
I'm not going to follow up after that. That's just, I mean,
Buckets?
Incredible. I like the talent at the top is 98 degrees. Yeah, we'll go 98 degrees.
All right. Buckets?
I'm going to go with whatever Chip said. Yeah, I'm not going near this one.
Well, because, I mean, I remember voting on, like, TRL, not for those. Like, I was voting for whatever awful, like, new metal song was, like, rising at. Like, I was jumping in. And not awful, excuse me. Like, Korn's talented, but like I was up there, logging in to vote for Freak on a Leash, right? Trying to make sure they held their spot at number 1 and didn't get overtaken by whatever NSYNC or Backstreet Boys songs. Like I had my corner, but I still have my opinions. So I'm going to say NSYNC slightly over Backstreet Boys, talent at the top.
Well, I'll tell you what, Scott Y is introducing New Kids on the Block. They obviously deserve to be on in the conversation, but it clearly is In Sync, and obviously we'll get to the recap screen in a second. But if anybody's going to bring up a boy band conversation, I apologize to everyone. It's going to be me. All right, let's get to the recap screen. You like that?
Yes.
Let's bring up the recap screen and talk about what we've talked about. Bo Nix over 21.5 completions at -125. That's my pick for Saturday. Mike McClure, Miami team total over 29.5 at -122 versus Iowa State. Buckets, Gil Vicente to score in the first half at +150. Gil Vicente to score in the second half +120. SportsLine pick, Jared Allen over 28.5 points and rebounds at -125. And your Chip Me Up, Chip Patterson, Oklahoma Navy, first half under 21.5. That starts in an hour and 35 minutes at 12 o'clock. Colorado, first half -2.5. Miami team total over 29.5 at -122. That's Mike McClure's picks as well. They share that play, Miami team total over. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what a show. We had a lot of picks. We had a Dr. Seuss call out, shout out, poetry by Buckets. Didn't think he had that in his bag, but turns out he has everything in his bag. It's been a great show. We even talked some boy bands. You got to love it. It's been a great Friday. Hopefully it stays a great Friday. Stay positive. Hopefully we'll see some green check marks on the next recap screen on behalf of Mike McClure, Chip Patterson, Buckets, and of course, Debo on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s. I'm the Counselor of Cash, Sia Nejad. Have a great Friday, everybody. We rest our case.